Good morning and welcome to Thrive, not just Survive. My name is Nasira Jamal, and I am so glad that whether you're here live or that you watch it on replay, I'm glad to have you here. I know a lot of people are struggling. This is almost at the 1 month mark. We are in terms of social distancing, rents have been due, mortgages are coming out, people are applying for EI, and there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of finances. And I really wanted to share something with you that I haven't really shared with too many people. And if you can imagine, I was 23 years old when I had my son, and I remember this time very clearly when he was just about 3.5 months old. I had moved from Edmonton to Toronto, and I was on social assistance because I wasn't able to work. I was not well mentally or physically. I was going through these bouts of very low feelings, and I believe that I was self-diagnosed, diagnosing myself as depression. And my son was also not doing very well. He was not drinking. He was tested for failure to thrive syndrome. He was not eating or sleeping. And of all mothers that are brand new mothers know, when you bring a baby home, it's an adjustment, right? So it was a big adjustment for me. But I remember this incident, and I bring it up because I believe it's going to shed some light in the situation that you are feeling or maybe feeling right now. I went to the Shoppers, not Shoppers, it was Pharma Plus actually. My son was on a very specialized milk formula that was, it was a soya-based milk because he couldn't tolerate any of the other milks. And so the doctors had me trying different things. And so we had found this soya milk that he was able to tolerate. And I didn't get out much in the days just because I didn't have a car, I didn't have a job, and I was really pretty much in my pajamas all day just taking care of this child who would sleep 20 minutes at a time. And I had lost my way in terms of faith. I was really in a very dark place, but also in a very foggy place where I didn't know if I was coming or going. I would eat only because I had to eat. I wasn't really full of any kind of joy or happiness because I was really struggling with what had happened, with how the separation happened in his birth. And there was a lot of challenges prior to his birth. So anyways, I'm going to share with you this one time where I took my father's car. It was about 8:30 p.m. at night. I left him with my parents, and I went to imagine, driving into a parking lot where Pharma Plus was. And I remember, on the drive thinking how the pit in my stomach, it was getting really raw, and already my eyes were filling up with tears. And I was thinking about, how much money I had left because I had run out. I was almost at the end of the amount that was given for that month. And I remember parking the car and opening up my wallet and looking at, there was a $5 bill and there was some change. The milk that I needed to buy for him, it came in a case, and that case typically cost about $40. And I knew that I couldn't afford the whole case that day. And so I thought to myself, well, I can buy one can. And as I counted the money, it was about $5.82 back in the day that we still had those copper pennies. And I remember, putting all this money in my hand and thinking that one can is likely going to cost about $7 from what I had recalled. And so I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I had to go into the store. And so I mustered up all the courage that I had, and I went into the Pharma Plus, and there was people, walking around. And I went to the aisle where the baby food was, and I looked at some things, and the tears found me, pretty quickly, because I was feeling really lost and devastated and thinking how I'm going to, buy this milk, one can of milk. And I thought, there was a cheaper brand, and I thought, should I buy the cheaper brand? But what if, he doesn't tolerate it and it doesn't work for him? That, all of these thoughts were going through my head, and there were stories in my head that were being played now that really brought about some untruths, and I can only speak of the untruths now. At that time, those were my beliefs, and I was thinking how terrible my life was, how unworthy I was, how I felt like, pity had found me, and that, I was not really who I was meant to be, but yet I found myself wallowing in self-pity, and how I didn't really have faith, that there was a God, or there was something that was going to help me. And I actually, asked this question, and this question used to go through my head quite a lot over the last year before he was born, that why me? Why me? Why am I going through all this? So I'm walking to the area where the soya milk was, and I pick up this can. I still remember it was like a pinkish color. And I held it in my hands, and at that point, I actually completely broke down in tears. And this was defeat. This was a young girl, 23 years old. You can imagine, there wasn't a lot of life experience, but there was a lot of sadness that found me. So as I held this can of milk, and I remember holding it close to my chest, I just cried. I cried. But something in me, there was a voice in me that was speaking to God, or to something, that said, why me? And if you can help me this one time, holding my self-dignity, allowing me to get through this one very difficult part, I promise you that I won't be here next month. I won't, and I didn't mean it in a suicidal way, but that I will find another way. I won't be left with $5 and change in my pocket for the end of the month. I made a vow, because I felt something else was stirring up inside of me, and yet you can see that it's still bringing up tears for me, because that experience was so pivotal in what happened in my life from that moment. And so at that point where I was carrying this milk and I was just walking up and down this aisle, there was a lady that was working there, and she must have seen me, or maybe, she thought that I was thinking maybe of things to do that weren't right. And she just looked at me and asked if I needed help. And as quickly as she looked at me, I just robotically, the words that came out of my mouth were, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And how many times do we do that, where, when things aren't fine, but when someone asks you if you're okay, or can they help you, and you say, no, I'm fine, I've got this. But in fact, we're not fine, and the reason I'm saying this to you is because we go through this many times in our lives, right? Where we feel not fine, but we tell a lie. These are how we cope. We become actresses and actors of our life to pretend that we are fine. And so I took a few minutes, and the tears got bigger and bigger. And I'll tell you one thing, you see on TV and you see people that cry, and they cry beautifully. Well, I'm not a beautiful crier. My one eye gets bigger and my one eye gets smaller, and I am a mess. When I cry, I don't look very nice. So this was another truth that I was saying to myself, of how terrible I was looking at this very moment. Though I couldn't see myself, I thought people are going to think I'm crazy, and that I don't look very nice, And of course, I'd come in all disheveled anyways, because raising a child, when you've been a brand new mom, that, showering and taking care of yourself are pretty much at the bottom of the list, because really you're tired and you're sleepless and sleep deprived and all of that. So I didn't look that great. And I walked up and down a few more minutes, and then I was praying, or some form of talking to this higher power, God, Allah, whatever that was to me at that time, because I had really lost my way in faith. And I remember saying, please, save my self-dignity. I don't want to be in a line full of people and going up to the cashier. And I was playing other stories as well at the same time, saying, well, I'll tell her that I'll come back in the next week when I have the money, and I'll pay the difference, or can I get an IOU note, or all of these things were going through my head. And if you have been through a challenging time when these stories are going, these stories can really take over, and they're not really you speaking. So I do go up, and I finally turn the corner, and I look around, and I see that, there's nobody at the cash register or the line. And I get up the courage to walk up to the register, and I put the bottle or the can of milk down. The tears are just rolling down my face. I can't control it. And I look at the lady at the cash register, and as she meets my eyes, she takes my hand and she puts her hand on top of mine and says, "It's okay. It's okay." Probably the best words, or the words I needed to hear at that point. But when she touched my hand, the tears got even bigger, because I let go. As much as I was holding on, I was letting go. I didn't know what she meant by "it's okay," but she took the money from my hand. She didn't even count it. She put the milk in the bag, and she looked at me and said, "God bless you." And she put a receipt in the bag, and I left. That moment changed my life. I sat in my car, or my dad's car. I didn't have a car. And I cried, and I immediately thanked God for this angel that had shown up, that helped me, because without that help that day, I couldn't have fed my baby. And so I'm telling you this because as we're going through this really difficult time, I am self-employed. You may be on the unemployment line, or you're trying to fill out the paperwork, or, you've just been laid off. The worry of the next step is huge, And if this story kind of gives you some reference of faith, then I want you to use #faith today, because really that's what we need right now. All of us, we need faith that it's going to be okay. And we've been through a lot before this happened, before COVID-19 showed up in our life. We've all gone through challenges. We have all come over those challenges. We can reflect back and look at those times when we did triumph. And those are the things we need to pull into our experience, those feelings of, I can do this. Yes, it works. Yes, God is there. Yes, whatever you believe in. Yes, this is going to be okay too. We are all going to get through this. And so today I want to share with you what happened after that moment. I used to be a writer. As a young child, I was always writing. I'd always had journals. And I remember going home that night, and that was probably the one feeding that I did with so much gratitude, that my son actually did sleep for a couple of hours that night. And generally it was 20 minutes each night, every day. And so I took out a book that I had, and I started to write. And what I began to write was not the story that had just happened, or, it wasn't these affirmations or anything I know now, but there was an inner knowing perhaps that I started to write a different story of what my life was going to be like. But I wrote it in a way that that's what I see, that I'm happy. My son is healthy. He's growing up. He's sleeping through the night. These are things I wrote in the book. And though I didn't know it at that time, this is an actual technique that, professional people who talk about personal growth and development, they teach this. And this inner knowing had come forth to me that night. I believe it was a divine guided message. And I began to write in my journal every night of what I am experiencing, though it wasn't the life I was living, because, it was still tough, right? I was still on social assistance. I still had to manage a baby that was not doing that great. And so I wrote and I wrote. And today I want to talk to you about this technique. It's called scripting. And I teach it to my students, and the ladies that have taken my course know this very well, But I'm a big proponent of teaching this because this was the one thing that I did back then that changed the course of my life. And I want to teach it to you because I believe that you can change what's happening right now. Yes, we are in this moment of, let's say, crisis, though I don't like using that word. But yeah, we're all struggling, we're all trying to find our way. No one really knows how long this will last. But what we do have is time. And that is a blessing. So what you want to do is get a book, whatever. You don't need to go to the store and buy something fancy. You can even just take printer paper. Right now, it's time to be creative and be resourceful. We're trying to do social distancing. Let's keep up with that because that is going to flatten the curve. But get a paper and pen, find a quiet spot, and write out the life like as if you're writing a play or a story. Become that writer, that playwriter, and write about what you want your life to be, but write it in the present tense. I am happy. I am well. I am healthy. I have money in the bank and I can take a vacation and I have planned to go to, let's say it's Bora Bora. I don't know what your story is, but whatever that is, bring in characters, give these characters personality and a life and a word and a story and a language, and find love and compassion within those people that you bring into your story. Make it your life story as if it's happening right now. And it's not one that you will write today and it'll be completed. Start today with the beginning. It's going to have a preface and an introduction, and you're going to introduce the characters, and you're going to write the plot, and you're going to write the different things that you're going to experience. And perhaps it's a new job, perhaps you're looking at starting a home-based business, perhaps you're going to be the entrepreneur that's always wanted to teach others, or whatever that is for you. There has never been a time in history where more entrepreneurs will be born, where they will create their own income, their own lifestyle, and they will plan their destiny, because that is the creator, that is the power the creator has given each and every one of us. So today, as I teach you this technique, I would like you to comment in the comment box, what it is that you want to experience in your life. Find that joyful moment where you can use a sentence or a word that really stands out to you. What is it that you want to bring forward? And as you write this, you may go back and use past tense. But as you do it, just go read the sentence and make sure that it's always written in the present tense. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Look, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to get started. And for the ladies that have taken my course and know how to do it, they know that, when it's done properly, it has grandiose effects. It changes everything, and it doesn't take long. So this is how you're going to do it. You're going to start today. You're going to start writing out what it is that you are. I am healthy. I am happy. I am privileged. I am honored to have this opportunity to write my life story. And then I'd like you to just let the pen go and allow it to flow through you. This is going to be transformational, and it will bring out some other feelings in your heart, and allow that to come through. Whether it makes you cry, smile, or laugh hysterically, whatever it is, embrace it and lean into it. I've always said to my people, my students that follow me and take my course and read my book, it's lean into the light rather than running away from the darkness. This is our time to lean into the light. And I'm so glad that you all are here. If I can help you, if I can guide you, this is the time for you to ask for help. If you're not okay, it's okay to say you're not okay. It's okay not to pretend. This is the time to be authentic and come into your power. We are humans. Let's be human, but also let's support each other through this journey. So I hope that this broadcast has shed some light into this place we are all in together, to give you some encouragement. And for me, it's let's bring faith back. Let's, whatever that means to you, bring it back into the fourth light, into the forelight, into the beginning of your life story. Allow faith to come through you, and know that with hope, there's much to be accomplished. There's much to be had. The rabbit hole of spiraling into the, you know, the self-pity and the sadness, it's easy, you know, to go down that road, but we have within us the power to choose the other road. You know, Robert Frost said it best, you know, when he said, I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So today, let's take that road of faith, of hope. Let's start scripting our new life. This will change things not just for you, your family, for community, but for the globe at large. And so today, it's all about you and about how you're going to write your story. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being on this journey with me. I am here. I love you all. I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. And for this day, I wish you a lot of love. I'll see you soon.